TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want barnstorming Barnsley insight analysis and opinion? Follow the Reds Report podcast on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Unbeatable club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
Hello and welcome to the Reds Report. This is the second episode of Season 9, sponsored by Barnsley Sport, and of course, proud to be part of the TalkSport network of fans. As always, with us this evening are Reds Report Ian. Good evening, Ian.
Good evening, chaps.
And Steve, who is sponsored by Andy Clark, because he thinks Steve is the funniest one. Evening, Steve.
Good evening. Other young gentlemen are available.
Boys, let's have a quick look back. Last week, we recorded our annual get-together with the Red All Over gang, and it was, of course, the open day afterwards. Steve, the crew match, it is a friendly. It's not about, it shouldn't be about goals. It's more to get to know some of these new players. Who stood out for you?
Norwood played well. Oh, God, sorry, I shouldn't really, should I?
No,
Callum Styles. Too soon, Tony. Too soon. Callum Styles were excellent. If he can play like that for us, week in, week out, I don't see any problems at all, especially midfield wise. He was positive, good on ball, comfortable on ball. Passing were excellent. He got in some really good positions. So, for me, Callum Styles definitely standout player. And your favourite central defender, Carlo, Mr. Lapata, looks as though he's definitely got a bit of something. I don't know whether that's going to be a case where he's going to be doing 5 to 10 for assault. So we might not have him very long. I don't know if he can play with a tag on. But he did look really good. Certainly, some of them challenges that he did put in were a little bit brutal, even for a friendly. So he's going to have to watch himself. But I think, I'm still optimistic. Some stuff that I saw were really good. I suppose the only negative for me for the crew game was John Russell. Sorry, didn't show even anything in that. So I just don't think he's one that is going to be going forward, to be honest.
Ian, and I completely agree with Steve. I mean, Callum Styles, an absolute revelation, and more than just flashes in that number 10 position. He directed the play, the passing, the running, the press, everything was just absolutely spot on. And obviously, they're not at full fitness yet. That poses then also a bit of a question mark, because Barnsley being Barnsley, there's still chance, I suppose, that somebody's going to snap him up, either on a season-long loan in the Championship or somebody's willing to take a punt. Because he will be one of those players that other clubs will watch because they know what he is capable of, albeit he might have not shown it last season whilst on loan. Is Barnsley a better side, do you reckon, with Callum Styles in it next season?
Yes, definitely. He's probably one of the better members of the squad, probably one of the better players on his day in the division. But as we know with this board, if they can make a quick buck on a player, he'll be out the door quicker than, say, James Norwood. I think it suits everybody. If he knuckles down and he's got the right attitude and he plays well, he might get a move maybe before the summer window shuts, but maybe in January. If it could be a bit later on, great. We get the best of him, and then if it is £2 million that it's supposed to be the release fee, then we get that as well, don't we? So it's win-win for everybody. If he sulks and sits in the stand, he's no good. It's no good for anybody. But certainly, he'll be starting on Saturday because we're down to bare bones anyway.
Obviously, the team news is that Connell is likely to miss. McCarthy's out. Cundy's out. Dallas has a chance of included, in the squad. But let's first talk about person who will be missing, because it was announced within the last hour or so that James Norwood has joined Oldham for an undisclosed amount. I remember saying a couple of weeks ago that I thought one of the strikers might go, because we had 5, and it just seemed, almost like one too many. There was the whole Wrexham saga, will he go, won't he go? A couple of days ago in the press, they weren't under any pressure to sell any player. Is this, do you think, I'll start with you, in a case of where maybe Norwood wanted to go and leave, or because it seems weird to, I don't know, I know, but 2 days before the season starts,
from a footballing point of view, if you were going to think, right, we don't need 5 strikers, we can get rid of one, you'd get rid of somebody like Ollie Shaw, surely, who's the belly kick to ball and anger. You don't sell your most experienced player, and a player who had a great season last season, not just like scoring goals, but he assists and what he can do off the pitch for him. For me, and he's played in pre-season, which I don't get either. And there's nothing from the player that would suggest he's not been happy. For me, it's either a clash of personalities when he's come out and made that interview with Yorkshire Post, saying that they were short at the back. And I just think it has a feeling that he's been shoehorned out, and they've just tried to get a bit of a fee for him while they can. I certainly don't get the feeling it's come from the player himself, and I just think it's a terrible move for the club.
Steve, Norwood, we discussed it last week, but we said, didn't he? Even if you get 60 minutes out of every match, he will press, he will score goals. Before we went on air, I was saying to Ian, he's also not a selfish striker. How many assists has he provided last season when he's, we did the running and he squared the ball? Besides Anderson, and this is a huge miss, because there's been no real successor yet to Mads Anderson, I suppose you can say. Lopata looked good, but I don't think he was bought as, somebody that was going to take over from Mads Anderson. How do you play somebody like James Norwood? Or do we need to replace him, bring another striker in now?
Well, I'm going to, play devil's advocate, as I always try to. We don't know why he's gone. It is a very strange one 2 days before. He's played, like you say, in friendlies. Played really well against Crewe. You don't know what's gone off behind the scenes with James Norwood. I think it was you that said that does he not live up that sort of way around that area or something?
Well, listen, it's Twitter, so it's highly reliable. But I read somewhere that he lives out in that area.
Maybe something's gone off in his personal life. I'd be very surprised if the club wanted to get rid of him. It doesn't make any sense, because let's face it, they're not going to have got a great deal for him. That going to Oldham, because Oldham haven't got any money anyway. So there is a lot of unanswered questions with the move. We might get to know, we might never get to know. Does this mean that Khaled and Julian Key have to resign, which I saw somebody put on Twitter? Get a grip. Do you know what I mean? It's unfortunate that he's gone, and he is a miss. But let's be realistic. No, we weren't going to get 90 minutes out of him. Yes, we are going to miss that experience. But let's look, if there is a positive side to what we've got left. You brought Max Watters in, supposedly a championship striker that was, going to do great things, but had an off couple of seasons. You've got Dallas come in again, that's full of promise. You've got J-Lo that's in under 21s that is coming through. So I don't think we're in that bad a state, and I don't think it is a bad thing that he's going. However, I'm not going to have a meltdown. Some people are saying lock doors and throw Key away and Barnsley's finished. These people need to take a look at themselves, because it's just that negativity yet again is gone. We can't do nothing about it, and I hate to be a realist about this, but we've got to move on. Moan and groan as much as you want. Have a go at board, have a go at club, have a go at me. I couldn't care less. The thing is, come Saturday, there's 11 guys going to be out there. There's going to be 2 strikers, I'm guessing, out there. that wants support. There's no point saying, "Oh, bloody hell, look who's playing up front. I wish Norwood were here." Ain't gonna happen. Move on.
Right, let's move on then. Port Vale.
Oh, that was easy, weren't it? Fantastic.
Port Vale, the visitors at Oakwell on Saturday. Ian spoke to some of their fans earlier this week, and this is what they had to say.
Good evening and welcome to the Reds Report with a welcome to Johnny from the Ale and Vale podcast. Welcome to the show, Johnny.
How are you doing, Ian?
I'm very well. Thanks for taking the time coming on.
No, it's fine.
This is something that we're going to start doing throughout the season where we speak to opposition fans and get a flavour of the opposition, so Barnsley fans get an idea what to expect in the upcoming games. So thanks for coming on to the Reds Report, which is sponsored by the TalkSport Fan Network and Barnsley Sport. We are Barnsley's longest running podcast, starting our 9th year. So let's crack on. I won't keep you too much longer. I did a little bit of research and I looked at the table last season, Johnny, and Vale finished 18th on 49 points. Were you happy with your season then, last season?
Overall, yes. The aim was to stay up and we did it. How we went about it, no. Because the first half of the season, I think mid-December, we were 3 points off the playoffs. And then end of the season, I think we were 3 points off relegation. So January nosedived and carried on nosediving and then carried on. And I think if it wasn't for, I think it might have been you guys actually on the final day battering someone, we kind of kept us up.
Right. Yeah, I know we went to MK Dons near the end of the season and we were 4-1 down at one point. And
it was that game.
I'm thinking, what on earth's happening? And then we got it back to 4-4 and nearly won it in the end. And I think that really that relegated them, really.
Yeah, and so it was Operations Survival was achieved. So you've got to say it was a good season on paper. It was just, on grass it wasn't always. Well, I say on grass. You mentioned before there wasn't much on it on the home pitch come the end of it, but
yeah, no, that's fair enough. I had a look at a bit of news for Port Vale. I noticed you appear to have been quite busy during the transfer window. Certainly a lot of free signings, loans as well, but quite pretty much all over the squad, it looked like. Are you happy with your recruitment this summer?
I'd say 80% happy because we've signed players in positions that we need them. We've failed miserably to bring in striker. So we've got one striker on the books. We've got one in on trial that was here last season, but we know his injury record isn't great. So I think they're just thrashing out a bit of trying to get him signed as pay as you play, and he wants a bit more because of obviously it's James Wilson and he's got that pedigree of you don't break through at United as an 18-year-old without having something about you, but he's also made a paper, so we've got to do best of both. So everywhere else we've signed the best keeper in the league, barring James Trafford. Not in my opinion, in Stats' opinion, I think Connor Ripley had the best saves percentage barring James Trafford and the best expected goals against versus actual goals against, and that's saying something when you concede 71 goals. So we've done really well there. We've signed 2 good wing backs in Mitch Clark and Connor Grant. Again, with Connor Grant, it's keeping him fit. We've overhauled the defence a little bit. Signed Kofi Balmer in on loan, who looks like he could be quite a shrewd signing. He's coming from Crystal Palace. He's 22. He's a big lad in terms of bulk. He's not the tallest, but he looks like he's been decent. And then we've made a couple of workhorses in midfield, and then we've signed Ethan Chislett from AFC Wimbledon, who got 11 goals last season, who is a bit more of a luxury player. And he's been likened to Luka Modric by the AFC Wimbledon fans. But that's basically because he's got long hair and a bit of a nose on him. So from far away, you might think it is him.
So if you could probably get another striker in, I think you'd be quite happy, wouldn't you, with that, by the sounds of it?
Yeah, I think overall we probably need 3 because we tend to play 2 up front. One of them we expect to be James Wilson, so probably 2 more. A young lad on loan and a bit of an experienced head would be nice.
Yeah.
But there's still 4 weeks left in this. We're in a similar point at strikers this point last season. So we hope that we would have learned from it, but you know how these things happen. The strikers want big money, and most of them can hold out. There's still a fair few on a free now that we're not going to break us back over. And then we sold one of our centre halves to Bolton at the beginning of the window, so we have got a bit of cash in the pocket there that we could go and purchase someone similar to what we did with Alice Harrison last window.
Right. So that's the thing, you see. They don't come cheap, do they? Strikers who'll get 15 plus a season, and that's the issue, isn't it? I think we found that where we've signed, like we got James Norwood last season on a free.
Yeah.
We've had Devante Cole in for next to nothing, and you've just literally, it's not easy. Even like somebody like an Alfie May at Cheltenham, you're talking $500,000 plus allegedly. So they don't come cheap.
Well, that's it, and there's no guarantee either. Like we had Theo Robinson a few years back. We've had him twice actually, and Tyrone Barnett as well, who've both gone for big money and came to us and done nothing. And then we've signed lads on a free that have had no record and gone on and scored 20 goals a season and gone on to bigger and better. So there's no set formula for it either.
No, not at all. We did touch on the issue of the Port Vale pitch, because last season it did look pretty bad. I mean, we played you twice at your place, once in that Pizza Cup or whatever it was called, where you beat us, and then in the league. What's the update with I know the game's obviously on Saturday is at Barnsley, but what's the update with the Port Vale pitch this season?
Well, we've had it lifted up. We've had the drainage all sorted out, and it's actually got grass on it at the minute. So we've spent a fair bit of money on it. To be fair, it's been in Staffordshire that there's a lot of clay-based pitches. So if you don't get the drainage right on them, they just hold up water. Obviously, a lot of teams never wear white at Vale Park, because obviously Vale play in white predominantly. So you don't really get to see it, but our home kits usually come off and they're always a muddy orange colour because of the clay.
Right.
So our drainage is just underneath it, that apparently the 60% of the drains had actually collapsed. So the pitch was only draining through 40% of them. And as you could probably tell when you've been there, it didn't really drain. It just held and then cut up and whatnot. So yeah, we've done a lot of work on that in the summer. Proof is in the pudding, really. Let's see what it's like after a few months. If it holds up without the weather's been this apparent summer, it should be all right. But once Saturday, Tuesday kicks in, we'll see what it's really about.
Yeah, true. 3 games a week into in this division with all the competitions, but no, good. So I was like, you might have sorted that out. So I felt I looked at your start to the season, and I must be honest, that looks one hell of a start. You've got away trips to Barnsley, Blackpool, and Charlton, who a lot have tipped to do well this season. Charlton, because they bought really well. You're at home to Reading, and then you've got Carlisle. How many points do you think you get out of those games?
15.
Good effort. No disrespect to Vale, honestly. They but on paper they look tough games, don't they? All at once.
I think the optimist in you says everyone's you've got to play everyone, and the first game of the season, first couple of games really, are probably the best time to play some of these bigger boys, because you've seen throughout the season that a lot of teams that end up going up are notoriously slow starters and then find the rhythm and just kick on. So it's probably the best time as any to play teams. We've got to be looking at picking something up from Carlisle. Reading are in trouble again. There's an issue with Charlie Savage's contract that's come out today.
Right.
So that actually might be being backed out. But so I don't know what that means for actually Man United, because I don't know if he'd revert back to a United player or just become a free agent. So
right.
So they're in a bit of turmoil, aren't they, with the fact that they spend someone else's money and then go into being skint again. So
true.
I suppose it depends how people go. They've signed well. They signed Cambridge's front two, which that could go one of two ways, really, isn't it? There's a reason that they survived last season. It's probably them pair, but it's it'll be interesting. But yeah, I'd be looking for 6 points somewhere.
Yeah.
So Carlisle, and then let's see.
Yeah, I mean, you've obviously, everybody looks at the home form, don't they? So you've got Reading and Carlisle, and you just never know with newly promoted sides. I mean, Carlisle, you just don't know, do you? Do you want to play them later on in the season when maybe the bubbles burst a little bit? But yeah, you'd be looking at your home games and then try and pick the odd point up somewhere on the road, I guess. So looking, obviously we're only just about to start the season, but let's look at the end of the season. What's your gut feeling for the three teams that may get promoted at the end of the season? I was asked this question at the weekend, and I've plumped for Blackpool, Derby, and Bolton. I think Bolton might do it via the playoffs. I don't think Barnsley. Well, personally, I don't think Barnsley will go up, but nobody thought Plymouth would go up, did they, last season? So that's who I've gone for. Who do you think might go up?
See, I was thinking Bolton as well. I think they've signed well. They've just signed Magoma on loan as well, so they've made some good signings. So I think it's Bolton's time. I think Portsmouth. Portsmouth have made some real good signings this time round.
You're not the only one who's mentioned Pompey actually, and about the signings. I've not really noticed it as much, but them and Charlton have been mentioned a bit.
Yeah, Port, and then my other one was Derby as well, because I thought Derby again can't have a season like they did last year. They've got a lot of talent in that squad, and I think they've probably got 6 months together. If by January that squad isn't in and around that top three, I think a lot of that squad then gets picked apart in January.
Right, yeah. And I just think with their manager Paul Warne, he's been there and got teams out of that division. So I fancy them as well, I must admit. But we shall see. Where will Vale finish, do you think, given your transfer signings, and what's your gut feeling about your season?
I suppose it's one of two things. If we get a couple of strikers across the line, then I'd say anywhere 12th to 15th is a decent season. Yeah. If we don't, survival's again the first aim. We've built really well with what we signed. The majority of the players we brought in are on 2-year contracts, so it gives us that springboard for later down the line. But yeah, I think survival's the number one target, and we'd all be happy if come the beginning of April we're not looking over our shoulders thinking, oh, who's this team got, who's that team got, and then looking at the end of the games going, oh, get in, they've lost. So
yeah, true. So who should for Saturday, who should Barnsley fans be looking out for within your squad? Is there anybody, or is it just that you're more of a team unit? I don't know. What's your strength?
We've been told, because we've got a new manager in who was the assistant last year, but he's come out with that he wants us to be fitter, faster, and stronger. So I think we're going to be a bit more of a sort of Tony Pulis style team. It's going to be a bit uneasy on the eye. We're going to be a bit rougher. We're going to be a bit of a battle, really. It's not going to be for the football purists at the beginning, especially away from home against the bigger teams in the division. Really, I think we're probably going to go to look in, dig in, and pick something out. So we're probably looking Funzo Ojo or Ben Garrity, the two of the centre midfielders that would be the two that we really rely on in them situations.
Yeah, right. So I'm going to pick your brain for a score prediction on Saturday then. Barnsley Vale, what do you think? I'll be honest, because we've got a new manager and we've had a few signings. Still got a time to gel because we've had quite a few friendlies postponed, so we've not really seen them how they've set up. Beat Crewe on Saturday in a friendly, but it's just got something like 1-0 Port Vale written all over this. That it'll just be typical that Barnsley they'll open the season, new optimism, a new manager, and we'll get beat 1-0.
Well, hopefully your new gaffer remembers his 7 appearances on loan for us and just gives us one in. Yeah, because Neil Collins, isn't it?
Yeah, Neil Collins. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he played 7 or 8 times on loan for us in 2015 before he started off to Tampa Bay. So, but yeah, score prediction. Well, we've scored 3 goals in pre-season in total. So.
Right. Tight game.
Yeah. I'd probably say 2-1 Barnsley. I think that looking at your strike force, you brought in Dallas. Devante Cole's always a pain in the arse. You brought in another striker as well that kind of opened up eyes.
So Max Waters has come.
That's the one, Max Waters.
Yeah, so he was on loan last season from Cardiff, and he's managed to get a permanent move. We've still got Norwood at the minute. Cole. I think we've got something like 5 or 6 strikers, but the 2 he picks, we don't know. So there's still a lot of question marks for us, really. But yeah, I mean. It's a nice problem to have, isn't it? Too many strikers.
Especially ones that have got a bit of a history of scoring goals as well.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So right, Johnny, really appreciate your time because I know you're busy. Just tell everybody where they can find your podcast before we go.
So podcast is updated onto Spotify, but if you go onto Twitter at Ale and Vale, you'll find all the links and whatnot there.
Brilliant. So thanks for coming on. Good luck for the season. I know we had 3 really tough games with you last season, and I'm expecting another tough game on Saturday. But thanks very much for coming on. Appreciate it.
No worries, mate. Speak to you in a bit.
Cheers.
Ian, your thoughts then on Port Vale? It's always awkward to that first match of the season because we've seen them against Crewe, but obviously Norwood's gone. What can we expect? Is this guaranteed 3 points? Is this an awkward one? Is this a physical game we can expect? What can we expect?
I think it'll be physical. I think it will be difficult. We played them 3 times last season, and they weren't easy games. We won 1, lost 1, and drew 1, didn't we? And they were a difficult opponent. Apparently, they scored 3 goals all pre-season, and they're after strikers. But then they've got Connor Ripley in goal from Morecambe, who's a decent keeper. They've made a couple of signings all over, apart from up front. So I think they'll come and try and play it tight and physical. I don't think it'll be a one for the purists, and I can see it being a close game. But yeah, I don't think it'll be pretty on the eye, certainly from Vale's point of view.
I'm going to ask you both for your starting lineup, but Steve, you can start. Who starts up front for Barnsley then on Saturday? Because you would have thought Cole and Norwood would have started if they've both been there. Am I presuming that Cole still starts? Who are you playing as your? What is your formation and who plays up front?
Well, you'd like to think now that Norwood's gone, it'll be Watters and Cole. I would have thought. Dallas is not 100% match fit. He said he might be on bench, so he might get a look in. But you'd think he'd be starting with Watters and Cole up front on Saturday. I would anyway. I think looking at what we've got, some other guys aren't necessarily quite ready. Sure, will probably be on bench. And as I said, Dallas probably on bench, I would have thought.
You want to take us through your team then, Steve? Your starting 11.
Steve?
Oh, go on. What?
Your starting 11.
No, Ian, we're going to tell me something then. He got that look in his eye, that glint.
It's the Gavi. Sorry.
Is that what it is? Beautiful.
Yeah.
Covered in white wine. Steady, easy now. Roberts in goal. You would have thought Roberts has been brought in to be, I'm guessing, number one. Your back five would be, for me, Cadden, Kitchen, Lapata, Williams, and O'Keefe. O'Keefe actually played well against Crewe. Played first half and looked tidy. You're gonna have Harry Kane.
He's going Bayern.
I know. I bring him in. We're going to go to Munich, but took wrong turning off M1. Herbie Kane in. Styles is going to play behind front too. I suppose it's that third midfield spot. I'd like to think, with the injuries and the suspension, that Theo Chapman might start because he played well second half against Crewe. I just hope, and I'm not starting out on a vendetta because I always seem to do on one particular player, but at the minute it's still Cundy, so we'll leave it at that. I just don't think Russell is anywhere near good enough or shown anything to me that he can play in any sort of midfield role. So that's my 11.
Ian, what about yours?
I'm similar with Steve. I think it'll be Roberts in goal. You're going to have Williams, O'Keefe, Lapata, Kitchen, Cadden. They all pick themselves, obviously with the injuries to McCarthy and Cundy. I think midfield with Phillips suspended, Kane, Styles without a doubt, and I think he'll persist with Russell, and then up front will be Cole and Waters. I think with Dallas on the bench.
What do we think though? As in result-wise, the first game of the season, it's not the finished product, especially with the new head coach that came in. You can say quite late on in pre-season. So one bad result tomorrow doesn't ruin the season. Although for some fans it will. Is this? I don't want to talk about must-game win, but on paper, Ian, you spoke to the Port Vale fans. What do you think? Sorry, somebody's trying to get into the bed. What do you think?
Oh, you should be so lucky.
What do you think?
Hang on, you're in a field with you're in a field with tulips and the doors just open.
It'll have been a cow. There was a cow coming through the gate. That's what it were.
These damn Dutch cows. Is this a game Barnsley should be winning? And
yes.
Can they win it?
Yes and yes. And I'm going for a close 2-1 home victory. But yeah, I'll go on. Come on, be positive. 2-1 home victory.
Steve?
Needs a performance, obviously. First game at season. I don't expect it to be pretty at all. From watching the friendly against Crewe, there were one thing that did stand out for me, and I don't know if anybody else who watched it thought that there seemed to be a hell of a lot of room. There were big gaps in midfield because Kane and Russell were dropping quite deep, even though Styles were up front. So I'm hoping he's looked at that and he's going to change some sort of the formation so that those big gaps don't appear, because Port Vale, if they see them, they'll be into them like a rat up a drain pipe. So that'll be no good. But a team performance, let's show that we've still got that spirit and we've got that team morale carried on from last season would be nice. And a victory, I'd be honest, quite positive about Saturday. Probably a couple, 2 or 3-0. I think we'll get off to a really good start, personally.
Yeah, I've listened to what the Port Vale podcast sort of talked about. I went for 3-0 as well, because I just think one of the things, and I know we talked about we still need strengthening, maybe at the back and everything, but I think one thing, especially up front now, there is that little bit of competition and they'll want to do well. Cole is, Devante Cole, if he's like last season, will score 15, 16 goals, which will be great. That's excellent. I'm really happy with your rival, Max Waters. He's been, for me, so far, the signing of the season. I think if he gets, if he gets those first 60 minutes every match in the first 4, 5, 6 matches, hopefully we'll see what he's capable of. And yeah, let's hope that we can start the season in a winning way, which sets up then nicely, because the games do come thick and fast. Because then we're playing again on Tuesday.
You'd think Tuesday would be, because it's Pizza Cup. You'd think Tuesday you would still be giving a run out to some of the first team players, but like we said on last one, you still want to be bringing some of these younger players in to get them involved with first team squad. I'd be using Tuesday for your likes of Dallas, for your likes of Cotter, Ollie Shaw, maybe even a couple of under 23s.
Is Phillips banned for the Pizza Cup, or is it just 3 league games?
No, it's 3 games, isn't it? 2 league and Pizza Cup.
Right.
I think.
I don't know. I thought it'd be three league games, because if you, but that's just me. I don't know. Somebody will know that. Somebody will comment on this.
I'm sure I was listening to Adam Oxley a couple of weeks back, and he were on about it, and he was saying, I'm sure he said it were 2 games, and Pete. So blame Adam Oxley. I would anyway.
We will. Right. The last question I've got for you both is today. Obviously, the club post on social media. 2 posts I want to quickly talk about, but in conjunction with each other. First of all, an open letter from Khaled about how important this season is, get behind the team and everything else. And then a little bit later, there will message that the club has been told by all these safety committees that there is persistent standing in certain stands. So you've got Khaled asking for an atmosphere. We need to create an atmosphere. We need to be the 12th man. But at the same time, supporters get told not to stand up. And there's not many people that sat down, really, is it? You always stand up. Then there was a little video montage that the club put on today about how important it is about 12 men. And every single person in that video, fans-wise, they were all stood up. And we get it, because this is not Khaled. I think, what can I do to piss the fans off this week? I tell you what, I tell them they can't stand up. It's from safety committees, the police and everybody else that obviously tell the club. How important, I'll start with you, Ian, how important is it, Ian, that there is a singing section in that Ponty end? Because they seem to be the one. It's like COVID. It spreads then. It starts over there and then it moves through the entire stand, and then the East End joins in, and if we're lucky, the West End as well. How important is it to have a section like that? And there will be reasons for it, I get it, but this standing issue is never going to go away, is it? Because not many people sit down and sing a song. Everybody stands up, don't they?
Yeah, and football's and supporting football's an emotive thing, isn't it? And they've tried for years, we all know why All-Seater Stadium come in, but now they're going to rail seating and rail, where you can stand and sit at the same time, which has come from the continent, but obviously it costs a lot of money. So yeah, the atmosphere, it was proved last season when the fans come through the turnstiles and they get behind the team, what a noisy place Oakwell can be, and can be that 12th man. And they do need to come up with something like a proper maybe singing section somewhere in the ground. But you've also then got to say to those people who choose to go in that area, you can take your flags, take your banners. Yeah, don't take your flares and all that sort of stuff. But basically, you can make as much noise as you want. And people who are in there will be like-minded people who are happy to stand and bounce around. So you won't get people in there going, bloody sit down, because those who want to sit down will be in another stand. So you've got to kind of have those conversations with the safety group that if you do have a singing section, they're going to have to be allowed a little bit of freedom to make it a singing section and make it work. You can't then tell them all to sit down and shut up, can you?
Steve, Khaled told us in that secret meeting that wasn't secret, and it was posted again today, that they're hoping for less queues, I believe, in the West End and in the East End, because they've got the magnetic cups that fill a pint pot in 4 minutes. which is pretty impressive, isn't it? Sorry, 4 minutes, 4 seconds. Sorry.
I was going to say that's worse than Guinness.
Unbelievable. What's going on there?
That would have still been quicker than before, but 4 seconds to fill a pint pot. And you don't have a magic wand, Steve, because that vision is just...
You'll be surprised.
Don't get your wand out. Whatever you do, don't get your wand out.
Hold on a minute.
What can... What could be done inside Oakwell? Don't say score on the pitch. Talking about atmosphere and facilities. What is there? Is there something you think that would be a quick win to improve that atmosphere without people standing up and going against regulations and everything else?
Well, the thing with standing up is if they want to apply for a standing up section, that's fine. That's probably where then, like you say, your singing section would go, if there is such a thing. Very difficult to sort. It's not being funny. If somebody said to me, "You're going to have to move seats because this is going to be a singing section," well, I won't be right happy about that, and I think there'll be a lot of people that won't be right happy about that. I do come back to, if it's exciting on the pitch, people automatically stand up for a few seconds for whatever, and then they sit back down again.
You have to see what's happening, don't you?
Well, in some parts that stand, yes, you do. But for these that want to stand up all the way through, then there should apply for a standing section. And if that is the right hand side of the Ponty end, where most people do the singing, etc., and I'm sure they'd be happy with that, that's fine. But you can't just say, right, we're going to designate this part at stand, or we're going to designate this stand as the singing section, and you can stand up, because that's not fair. Some people do pay the money to go in and sit down. So you're going to have to look at that from both sides. As for being able to fill a pint pot in 4 seconds, I couldn't give a monkey's chuff, to be quite honest. Why? What difference does that make? That don't make me think, oh, you know what? I'm going to go 10 minutes earlier because I can have an extra 3 pints. Why? We're back to, why do we need to get pissed up to go to a football match? People want to go and have a drink. That's fine. But I've seen something on Twitter today. Somebody's done a map of all the pubs and bars around Barnsley, around ground that you can go to pre-match. There's loads. Absolutely loads. All right, having a happy hour. Fantastic. But do you really want to go to ground and be sat or stood or whatever with somebody who's managed to get 5 or 6 pints down the neck and be falling all over or throwing up or causing trouble just because they want to stand or they want to sing or they don't want to stand? I don't think alcohol is the answer. I really don't.
I think the answer to the singing section is, you know, the bit between the Ponty end and the West Stand, that bit of concrete that slopes up. Put some rails in.
Disabled stand then.
No, the other side. And, you know, can we get a roof on there and put some rails so people could stand and put everybody together? But listen, a lot will still be resolved. And of course, we are still waiting on the big news from Carlo as well. That could drop any day or any month or any season.
Or any year.
Because we don't know.
Well, it's not going to be big now, is it? Let's face it. It's been diluted down that much that whatever he tells you now, you know, Kelly Brook's going to play up front, topless. Nobody cares now. If he'd have told you that if he'd have told you that in May,
I'm interested now.
If he'd have told you that in May, there'd been 12,000 season tickets sold, wouldn't there? Whereas now it's Kelly Brook, not right bothered, being it's true. Megan Fox, maybe, something like that. But it's that sort of thing. It's been diluted down now that much that unless it is absolutely earth-shattering, people are just going to say, "Oh yeah, that's good." Not big though, is it?
Well, yeah. I think if you have a big announcement, then you say you have a big announcement, and normally within 24, 48 hours you do it, don't you? It's the teasers they put on Facebook, you know, on social media when they've signed somebody. You see a few teasers, whatever, and then bang, it's there. I've got a really big announcement, and then to try and get season tickets sold, and the season's starting, and people are still waiting. I don't think there's any big announcement that would people say, "Oh, that's fantastic." And maybe that's because the fans that buy a season ticket want to know about those 11 on the pitch and not necessarily the business side of the business. But you know what? We will wait and see what happens. I know you're both going on Saturday. Unfortunately, somebody has to go to Crete in 32 degrees heat for 7 days, all inclusive. So
raining, mate. I've had a look on Met Office on my phone, pissing it down next week, covered in rain.
You've got the wrong Met Office because I've done the same, and we've got a text as well to say, please make sure you bring factor.
You'll miss this. You'll miss this, won't you?
Why? My ears are bleeding. Can we not? Oh God, 21st century. Let's come up with something else. Please come up with something else, for God's sake.
You know what? Now changes are going throughout the club, the different way we're doing things, and
change is not good.
Maybe it's a time to say we're not going to do what we've always done, which is a time rider, because that, you know what I mean. Maybe we do that. That debate will be had another week.
Gents. Oh God, it won't. Not again. Surely not. We keep coming up with alternatives. No bugger bloody listens. Say they've only got 2 records: Time Rider and bloody Rocky theme. That's it. They haven't got any more.
Maybe they'll have to turn them around. Maybe play Time Rider just before they come out of the tunnel and play Rocky when they come onto the pitch. We'll do that, can't we? Why not? A change is as good as anything. Look at face of him.
Combine them up. Let's have Rocky Rider. Come on. I've seen that film as well, funnily enough.
Gents, enjoy the day at Oakwell on Saturday, whether you go to happy hour or not, whether you have a pint pot that fills up in just 4 seconds or not. Enjoy the day. Let's hope for 3 points. Let's hope for a really good performance and something to give the fans hope going into yet another season. You have been listening to the Reds Report, season 9 of Barnsley's longest running podcast, sponsored by Barnsley Sport and, of course, part of the TalkSport Fans Network. So as we raise a glass to another season, and I raise a can because I'm poor, unlike those two, enjoy the day, gentlemen, and we will see you next week.